In this module, I want to talk about lexical analysis. So this sort of represents a picture of the English lexicon. The data here is 80,000 dictionary entries. So many dictionaries have 60,000. They say that most educated English speakers have probably about 30,000 words at their disposal. So obviously we're going to have a lot of very low frequency words that are never used, that you maybe kind of quote unquote SAT words or like Scrabble words in here, some words that you recognize them when you see them, but probably you don't use that often. Even though Germanic words from Germanic languages like Older Middle English, Old Norse, or Dutch are about a quarter, a little bit more, and words from a French origin are a quarter, a little bit more, and words from Latin origin are a quarter, a little bit more, and then we have these others. That doesn't mean that they're all used equally frequently. The Germanic words are going to be the most frequent ones, and especially those Germanic words that are of this older Middle English origin, this Anglo-Saxon. The words that we use for communicating functions, the words that we use all of the time, are probably going to be Germanic in origin. Words that are French in origin are going to be used a little bit more for more specialized situations, but still maybe everyday things, words like table or honor. And then the Latin ones are going to be pretty much for specialized academic fields. They're associated with educated speech. We have this question of tokens versus types. So each minuscule spoke on this wheel is going to be one type. So there's 80,000 different dictionary entries. So there's going to be 80,000 types. This is from sort of probability theory or from statistics of counting tokens and types. So that's how many types there are. That's how many kinds of words there are in the English language. But tokens would be basically how many encounters of a word are there. So these words, the Germanic words that are very frequent, even though a word like the counts as a single type, it might actually account for almost 4 or 5% of all tokens in the language. So all words that one encounters are just instances of that single type, the. So if it comes to tokens and types, actually, then we've got a very different picture. A lot of that huge red Latin slice, there's a lot of those Latin words, but they're each used very infrequently, so it's going to represent a smaller proportion of the token. So let's compare that analysis of just what are in all of the dictionary entries with the words that are found across 10,000 business letters, a corpus of 10,000 business letters. There we can already see that the percentages for the different types are a little bit different. Among 10,000 business letters, 41% of the types are of French origin, 33% of the types are this native English origin, and then we've got a smattering of Old Norse and Dutch. That kind of brings the Germanic number up to 36%. So we can see that the French and the Germanic, that blue and the green slice, greatly increase if we're talking about business letters, so the language of everyday life as opposed to a dictionary. And then we have Latin has gotten a lot smaller. We're using a lot fewer Latin words in business letters. So this is called lexical analysis, and I sort of want to introduce you to a website that can help us sort of read the history of the words that are in a text, which can be useful for a teacher. So if you go to this site, LexTutor.ca, the site is from McGill University in Canada originally. What you see is something like this. It's very much Web 1.0. This is an old site from the 1990s, but it still remains because it still is pretty useful, and you can actually see, it's being updated actually here. So what you can do actually with this text is you can copy and paste text into this space, and it will actually analyze it for you in lots of different ways. So this isn't fancy, but it's pretty useful. So let's get an example of this. I have a Nuclear Times article here. Let's pick this one about snowboarding. We'll avoid maybe some of the more controversial topics for the day. And I'm just going to copy and paste some text from this article on snowboarding. into here. So I've copied and pasted it. And I will click this yellow button, submit, and what it does is it gives me a profile. It gives me this sort of output of what's going on in this text. So let me show you a few of these things. So the K1 words, these are words that are in the most commonly used 1,000 types in the English language. So of all of the types in English, all of the dictionary entries, the 1,000 words which represent the highest number of tokens, so these are the most frequent words. Words 1 through 1,000 are K1 words. K2 words would be the next 1,000, from the 1,001st most frequent word in English to the 2,000th most frequent word in English. So we have what we can see is that 75% of all of the words in that text that I copied and pasted are from this K1 word list. Another 7 is the K2, so K1 plus K2 together that's 82.58. So roughly 83% of the words are among the common most 2,000 words in English. So that meant, really, if you only knew 2,000 words in English, and if the 2,000 words that you knew were the most frequent 2,000 words, you would be able to understand, or you would know, quote unquote, 83% of the words in this text. AWL stands for Academic Word List. These are words that are highly frequently found in academic writing. This is a special word list that was designed to take you from, if you know K1 and if you know K2, what are the other words that you would need to know to be able to understand 95% of most academic writing, 95% of most journal articles? And that academic word list is composed of about 600 or 700 words that are divided into actually 10 sublists. Sublist 1 is the most frequent group from that. Sublist 10 is the least frequent group within that. And then if you were to know all of those AWL words and the K1 and the K2, this number of what you know should add up to like 95%, which is about what you need to be able to read a text without getting frustrated. And then these red words, off-list words, are going to be specialized words, words that specially pertain to a particular field, or these are words that would be even lower frequently than K1, K2. They would be in the K3, so from 2001 to 3000, K4, 3001 to 4000, those less frequently used lists. And it's actually kind of interesting. So what this does is this has the original text here. It actually color codes the text based on this. So again, the blue words are the K1 words. So if I was working with a lower level learner, these are words that I might expect them to know. And if there were any K1 words that the learner didn't know, these are the words I would really want them to focus on. The green words are the K2 words, so that extra addition which gets me from 75 to 82. If I knew the blue plus the green, then I would know 2,000 words in English, and we can see like this gives me a few more things. These are less commonly used. It's less often that we talk about grandmothers or cool or zero or slopes or feet or jump or stupid, but those are common enough. They're in the most common 2,000 words. Yellow are going to be those words which are highly associated with academic writing that are not in the first 2,000 words, so relocated, cultural, credit, chapter, restoration, occur, editor. If you're teaching in a school setting or teaching learners to be familiar with school or academic English, these yellow words are really high-powered words for you to focus on. Then red are going to be the words which are off the list. And we notice that some of these are going to be proper names like Hawaii. And some of these are going to be technical terms, snowboarding, surfing, ramp, borders, gravity, flipping, avalanche, helicopter. So words that are especially associated with this particular subject, which in this case is snowboarding. Then we have some words which are just sort of regular words, but they're just not very frequent, like tunnel, zoom, concrete, weird, accelerated. So those would be less important for my learners to know, but if they only knew the blue, green, and yellow, that only gets them to about 85%, which is probably not enough to be able to read this without getting frustrated. Some of the place names like Hawaii and Michigan, you might get for free. Sherman pop in the names, because names and proper names are usually easy to guess. Yosemite, Chicago, Honolulu. But some of these lower frequency ones they might not be able to get. And it's hard sometimes for a learner to know where should they focus their attention with vocabulary, so that's what this can do for us. We also see a couple other statistics that are here. This is how many tokens, how many total words are in the text. This would be like the word count in Microsoft Word, 683. How many different words are there? How many types? There's 683 words, but there's only 351 different words. So the type to token ratio, it's basically saying on average, each type is used roughly twice. And we can see that here, tokens per type or type to token. So these are kind of reciprocal numbers. Basically, for each word on average, it's used twice in this text. And the lexical density refers to content words. Content words are things like nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, as opposed to functional words like prepositions, conjunctions, articles, determiners, those sorts of things. So the fact that the lexical density, this is 0.54. 0.54. So it's not that dense. You can also see them listed out here if you want to see. This is organized by, so A is one type, and you can see all of the tokens of A there are, all of the tokens of it. So this can help the learner sort of see, oh wow, how many times is each one of these words going to be used in a text? We obviously have lots of thes, and then the first 500 content words, so these are going to be the all functional words, words that are function words, not content. These are the content words. Again, and if any of these are new to the learner, that would be their first priority. Then you could move on to these content words, and then here's the other ones. And we can see the academic word list words, they're sorted out by sublist. So again, of these academic word list words here, the sublist 1 words are going to be the ones that are the highest priority, the most frequent of these AWL words, and sublist 10 are going to be the least frequent of those AWL words. And this gives you like the total token counts here. It's not the most user-friendly, but you can see of is used 16 times, whereas off is used only once. So this can help you a little bit as you work with a text. So that was from the New York Times. Let's see what happens if we enter a different text on the same subject. So here I have an academic article about snowboarders. So I'm going to enter some of the text from this academic article, and I want to just kind of get a sense of like how different is the language used in this academic article on snowboarders from the language used in the newspaper article about snowboarders. So I'll add all of that stuff in, and I press submit. And let's make some comparisons. Whereas in the newspaper article, the K1 words were 75%. In the academic article, the K1 words were only 67%. So the total of K1 and K2 in the newspaper article was 83. The total of K1 and K2 was only 72. So this means if I only know K1 or K2, I understand way less of this academic journal article than I would understand of the newspaper article. AWL words, the academic words, it was only 2% of the newspaper article. Not surprisingly, these words are 14% of the academic article. So these are those words which are really especially useful for academic writing, academic language. An off-list word, it's 13 as opposed to off-list 15. That's about the same. It's a specialized topic, so you're always going to get a good chunk of specialized words. So here, each word was used on average twice, basically. Here, each word is used on average 3 times. So like we're going to get a lot. There's a smaller set of words that are used more often on average. The lexical density is a lot higher. So there's a lot more function words is what this means in the newspaper article. That makes it easier to process, easier to read. There's a lot more words which are indicating the relationships and a lot fewer actual pieces of content that are in here. only 0.54. Whereas in the academic article, there's a lot more pieces of content and fewer function words, this kind of connective tissue to pull them together. In a spoken conversation, actually, this would go way lower than 0.5, that you would have a lot more function words and a lot less content being delivered for the same amount of text. So yeah, if we look at this, we can see there's actually a lot more yellow words in the academic article and a lot fewer blue words as opposed to that. In the coloring, we have, this is the token list. Let's look at, so the function words are here. We see lots of thes, lots of ands. And then the content words, which are still in the first 1,000, a lot of number, a lot of differences, so we can kind of see what's going on, a lot of social, some of the central concerns of this paper. And then this would be the green words, but then let's see all of this academic word list. Wow, all of the academic words that are on here. And so let's break this down by sublists. So these would be the most important ones to focus on, this idea of identities, identify, identifies, identifying. So that whole word family around identity, this word family around concept, conceptualization, conceptualizes, analysis, analyze, analyzing, another sort of word family, specific, specifically. And then we can go down. Cultural is a big idea, which repeats a lot. Commitments is a big idea. Style is a big idea. And then we get down to a sort of a very rare one, whereby. And then these are going to be words which are so infrequent that they don't even make the academic word list. And the academic word list was made from compiling lots of different academic fields together, whereas in this one we see lots of snowboarding, obviously, but also words like bourgeois, words like aristocracy, deportment, embodied, embodiment, which are going to be specific to one particular academic field.